Nobody's you. You are unique, right? I only exist once, one single time on this planet. Some people think that's good. But all joking aside, comparing yourself to somebody else is completely useless because nobody is you and everybody has different starting point, experience, personality styles. Everybody has their own challenges and bottlenecks and things to go through. So it's useless to compare. It's like comparing apples to pears to bananas. The only way of comparing I consider useful is comparing yourself to the best possible version of yourself that you can imagine. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? How can I get into that mode? If I feel like I'm useless, I'm not good enough, I will radiate that.
Your mindset has a much more significant influence on your success than your external circumstances. In this episode, I sit down with Thomas Gelmi, who's a leadership and self-development expert, to explore how you can take control of your mindset, break limiting beliefs, and build the habits needed for lasting change. Thomas has spent decades coaching leaders worldwide, helping them to develop emotional intelligence, resilience, and self-leadership. He shares practical strategies for rewiring your thought patterns, overcoming self-doubt, and staying adaptable in an unpredictable world. If you've ever felt stuck or just struggled with comparison, this conversation will help you to shift your perspective and take actionable steps towards becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioral science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, Nick Brax, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how to break limiting beliefs. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Thomas, so great to meet you. Thank you for making the time to come on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me on your show, Nick.
Appreciate it. And yeah, super interested to talk about, some of the work you do, but, a few topics that we already had coming up just before we started recording about, how you can take leadership of yourself, how men can really find themselves, especially, it's a big part of our audience. So a lot to dive into. Before we do that, so our audience can learn more about you, can you give a bit of a background on yourself and just briefly explain the work that you do?
Yes, I'll start with the last point you just mentioned. What do I do? And then I'll tell you where I come from with all of that.
Okay.
So what I do is I work with leaders in organizations mostly, or people who want to aspire to be in a leading position. So both. And it's all about people where people interact with each other in leadership, collaboration, customer interaction, but also self-leadership, which is a crucial aspect of it. And I support them through individual coaching or work with groups around the globe. And I've been doing this for around about 20 years now. Before that, I had a very colorful biography. I started earning my first money by cutting people's hair. Then I thought, okay, nice, but this can't be it for the rest of my life. So I did a little bit of job hopping here and there. I ended up working for a circus and touring around for 1.5 years, living in a trailer, which was fun. But again, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life, right? And then finally, I joined Swissair, the Swiss national airline, and became a flight attendant in my mid-20s and stayed there for almost 8 years. leading cabin crew on international flights. And I learned a lot during that period of my biography about people, about what works, and about myself, of course, as well. So that's, in a nutshell, me and my path.
Interesting. And then how did you go from there to the work you're doing now? From the yeah.
Well, in 2001, shortly after 9/11, Swissair grounded. It went bankrupt. No more, right? And I had to, find a new, or open a new chapter in my life, and applied for various positions in the training and education industry, because I also did that at Swissair for a while, which got me to a small consulting company in Zurich, where I got into the whole domain of leadership development, training, coaching, etc. And looking back, to the biography, it may look a bit zigzaggy, right? But the red thread was always people. It was always connecting with people. And I mean, while cutting people's hair, I was having deep conversations with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, you learn. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's so interesting. Like you don't, those dots don't connect till later on, that all the work you're doing, all these experiences end up accumulating to what you eventually find your calling to be. But it's kind of crazy that if we went searching for that from the beginning, we might not be able to find it, because how would you know?
Exactly. It's what Steve Jobs said, right? That you can only connect the dots looking back.
Yes.
And everything becomes clear and reveals itself. The challenge, though, is that we have to live life forward, into, like, walking into the fog, where you cannot see much more than only the next step. And that's how you go about it. You take the next step. You do what you can see. And then once you've done that, you take the next step, right? You reassess the situation, you take the next step. It's a kind of an agile way of moving also through life, right?
If you're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbrax.startup.page. It's a tricky thing to do, because, we can either feel like we're completely lost, or we're attached to an idea of, this is what I want to become, this is what I want to do, but we're so attached to it that then we don't actually move forward properly. And I've been stuck in both. I think all of us have in different parts of our life. Both can be really frustrating. And I've said that quote that you said so many times. I love that it only makes sense when you're looking back, but you have to live forwards. But it's so tricky. It can be so frustrating.
Well, yes, and of course, getting older helps, in dealing with that, because you learn that sometimes patience is needed. The day you plant the seed is not the day you harvest the fruit. Look at nature. Nature functions like that, and we are not part of nature. We are nature. So it's the same principles, right? And of course, looking back, seeing the dots connect gives you trust that the dots will always be connected also in the future, right? And I mean, look at us. We've made it until here. Until today in our lives, we made it. Despite all the adversity and the challenges and the difficulties, we made it. So there's a high likelihood that we are going to make it moving forward as well, right? The challenge with what you just described is that we tend to set goals for our lives. I want to achieve that, and I want to achieve this. And because we believe that in the achieving of it, we be happy.
Yeah.
Or we have a quality in ourselves or in our lives that we want to have. The problem is that we get so fixated on what it is that we want to achieve, because we believe that is going to make us happy, that we're not open enough to the alternatives that life is constantly offering, opportunities that life is constantly offering. So one key is really to disconnect from the concrete goal, and rather go into a vision of a quality you want to feel, a quality you want to experience in your life, and start being in that quality. Start feeling it. And regardless of how you get there, just keep it alive. And then you can be like water, right? Water is always flowing to the ocean, right? How it gets there, completely open. There's a
Yeah.
tree in the middle, no problem. I go left, I go right, I go a little bit up, a little bit down. So I'm fully flexible and adaptable to the terrain while going to where I belong, to the ocean, right? And adaptability is an absolute key in dealing with today's environments in many, many ways.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because, I mean, you can, like we were saying, if you're fixated on this is the goal, I have to do it this
Mm,
way, you can
mm,
just get stuck and you can miss steps. But also, we live in a world now where comparison is bigger than ever. So we might be
mm.
actually doing well on a path that we're on, but we might then look at other people and think, hang on, that person is doing the thing I want to do, and I'm doing all
Yeah,
these steps, and I can't get there, and it's taking me
yeah,
in this different path.
yeah,
Why can't I have what they have? And then we
mm,
derail ourselves. How
yeah.
big of an issue is comparison? How do we deal with that?
Huge, huge. Comparison is a recipe for unhappiness because nobody's you. You are unique, right? I only exist once, one single time on this planet. Some people think that's good. But all joking aside, comparing yourself to somebody else is completely useless because nobody is you and everybody has different starting point, experience, personality styles. Everybody has their own challenges and bottlenecks and things to go through. So it's useless to compare. It's like comparing apples to pears to bananas, right? The only way of comparing I consider useful is comparing yourself to the best possible version of yourself that you can imagine. And that links to what I said a moment ago, to this quality. Like, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel in my life? And how can I get into that mode? Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because it has an influence, right? Just simply what you radiate when you leave the house, right?
mm, mm,
If you feel like if I feel like I'm useless, I'm not good enough, I will radiate that.
yeah,
My
yeah,
posture, my nonverbal communication, how I show up will be in a certain way. And it will be different compared to if I believe that I'm, just the best possible version of myself. And where I walk, the snow will melt.
yeah.
Of course, I'm exaggerating, but to use images that convey the message. So who you are on the inside has a big impact on what you encounter and what will happen on the outside, how you react to people, etc.
It makes so much sense because, I think so much anxiety and overwhelm comes from things we can't control and
Yeah,
feeling out of control and feeling frustrated because we are, like what you're saying, we're wanting all of these external things to happen to feel like that will finally validate us, finally make us feel like we're enough, finally make us feel happy. But even if it happens, it's not going to fill those voids. But what you're saying is great because if we forget all of that and think, how do I just you know, have the mindset that I am empowered? How do I want to feel? These are things we actually can control. And
yeah.
that simplifies it because then whatever else happens, whatever, great if the positive thing happens. If not,
Mm-hmm.
we're in the mindset to deal with the negative,
Yes.
but we're not waiting for something to give us permission to be happy.
And what you're saying it as if it were the most normal thing in the world, right? But for many people I meet, it's a revelation to just understand, oh, I can choose how I want to feel. I have, it's a choice.
Yeah.
I can choose the mindset I'm going into the day with. I can choose how I respond to things that happen. I can choose the meaning I give to things, to situations, to what's happening, to people, to myself.
Yeah.
We have so many choices. We cannot choose what, the hands we're being given, the dealt, like in a card game, right? Or what life puts on our desk and in front of us every day. But how we respond to that, we can. We have choices. And
And
that
is this
opens a
also,
whole, it opens a whole spectrum, of being in the driver's seat.
yeah, and is that also why you'll have people who, do have everything a lot of us want, whether it's fame, money, whatever it is. You've got people that are in these positions but are incredibly unhappy,
Yes.
have drug problems, sometimes ends in, tragically in suicide.
Yeah.
Is that because they still are in the mindset of, I'm not enough, I need more, what's next, I'm not valid, I need the next thing? They're still comparing.
Of course, it's more complex than that because it's on an individual level. It can be
Could
very,
be
very
anything.
different, right? Of course,
Yeah.
but yes, in a very simplistic way, yeah. If you live from an inner state of scarcity, where you have this innate feeling that it's never enough. Let's take money as an example, but it could be never enough of anything, never enough of love, affection, whatever it may be, right? But let's take money. You can be a multi-millionaire and still feel like it's not enough, right? Because that's deeply ingrained. It has to do with our beliefs, right? The good thing is beliefs can be thrown overboard. They can be examined. Like, is this really what I believe? Or is this just something I've taken on board from my upbringing, which is normal? Which is normal, right? We all learn from our parents and other influencing people, and we take on their values and beliefs. Doesn't mean they are necessarily what we believe if we examine it properly. And you can come to a point where you think, yes, I have been believing this about money, for example, that is never enough. And I don't think that is true. I will throw this belief overboard and replace it with something more useful for me. Like
Yeah.
there is a natural flow of money in my life. And to make money, you have to spend money. That's another belief, right? Some may say it's right, some may say it's wrong, but it's just, choosing what you want to believe in and what your truth really is inside out.
So I guess that leads to my next question, that we were talking about earlier. How do you take leadership of yourself? Because I think, we can have the intention to do what you're talking about there, but
Yeah.
then on any given day, more than any time in human history, we're going to be exposed to so many different ideas, different challenging beliefs. And we might think, okay, I'm going to choose to have the belief that I'm not going to attach myself to money or whatever it is. But then we have a conversation or we
Mm-hmm.
see something on social media or, whatever else, and it takes us in this direction, or, we're influenced by our parents. So how do we take leadership internally for ourselves? Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbrax.start.page.
Well, it always starts with two things. Number one, awareness. Because only what I'm aware of, I can change, I can control, I can do something about. What I'm not aware of controls me. like a belief that I carry in myself. And a belief is basically a thought that I keep thinking, right?
Yeah.
And this belief has an influence on my behavior, my decision making, my perception, how I perceive things. As long as I'm not aware of it, I cannot change it. I cannot examine it or, as I said, throw it overboard. So awareness is always the first step for any change or development or growth, right? The second point is an intention, a clear intention. What do you want? What do you want to change? What do you want to develop? Into whom do you want to develop? And then go about it in baby steps, small steps. What's the first little thing I could start doing that would start making a difference in that direction I want to head, right? Or what's the first thing I could stop doing because it's keeping me from being who I want to be?
Yeah.
Right? Little things here and there, fine tuning, because, we're talking about change of habits in an adult person. Most of my clients are 30, 35, 40, 45 upwards, right? So grown men and women with habits. And some of them are more useful than others. And everybody who's ever tried to change a habit knows that this is not a light switch. You cannot just decide, okay, as of tomorrow, this will be different. That would be nice, but it doesn't work like that because the habits have evolved over time. It's like the Grand Canyon has become so deep because the Colorado River has been very persistent in flowing through it, right? So if you want the river to now flow in a different direction, as in building a new habit, you need a new canyon. You need a new canyon that is at least half a meter deeper than the old one. And then things will go automatically. But until then, it takes clear intention and then persistence and discipline in doing the things you want to be doing differently or thinking differently. Thinking is also a habit, right? And until it doesn't need this effort anymore because it has become part of your repertoire. And then it comes more easily. But until then, it takes the effort, yeah.
And
that's where many fail. Sorry, but that's where many fail.
Well, this is my next question for you.
Yes.
Is that pretty common? I mean, in the work that I do, I've seen it, and I mean, even my own experience. I mean,
of course,
it seems like it's very common if someone wants to make a change. We can be, excited at the beginning, where we go almost even do too much at the beginning, and then you can't sustain it. Something happens, life gets busy, you don't get the results, you get disheartened, and you stop.
Yes.
And it's really hard when you're trying to make a new habit, when you hit that plateau where, you're doing the daily stuff, but you're not getting the result.
Yeah.
You're fighting everything to, everything's telling you to stop, fuck this, it's not helping me. Like, what am I doing? And you get frustrated. You feel like a victim. Well, I've committed. Why am I not getting the results? How do you get through those periods?
Yeah. Well, again, the day you plant the seeds is not the day you harvest the fruit. So patience is key, combined with discipline. And then there are two main enemies to changing your habits. Number one, existing habits, because that part of your brain will keep saying, hey, what are you doing? This is not how we do things here. There's this arm folding exercise I sometimes do with people. I say, hey, fold your arms the way you do when you sit comfortably, right? Good. Now open your arms and now fold them again, but the other way around. Like you never do it.
Right.
And then first people have to think, well, how do I even do that? Right? Because it's not there's no map in your brain for that, Nick. You see, it feels uncomfortable, right? There is no map in the brain for that. It's new and it may seem unsafe for your brain, right? And that's the challenge. You have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. for a while.
Yeah.
And then over time, yeah, you can do it like this or you can do it like that. And both are comfortable because you've just created a new option, a new habitual option that you can choose from. It increases your variety, right? But until then, the old existing habits will be an enemy because they, they're also easier and consume less energy. And the
Yeah.
other enemy is your daily routine, your daily business at work, for example, that brutally demands all your attention, or social media that demands all your attention. And that attention is not available to move yourself forwards on the path. So the key there is it can be multifold. Either you find some sort of an anchor in your days that keep your intentions present, something visual, a dot on your computer or an image on the wall or whatever it may be, an anchor that keeps reminding you of your intentions. And another thing that can keep the commitment up is, for example, to work with a coach,
Yeah.
to work with a guide, a coach, someone who, when you meet them in 3 weeks down the road, they will ask you, what did you do? What went well? And, having to say, nothing, I didn't have time. You do that once, and then there may be a question about, do you really want that?
Yeah.
Do you really want it? So that can bring a bit more commitment to such a process. And I would encourage everyone to work with a coach. It's just opening up so many new perspectives, and it helps you think around corners that you cannot access yourself.
I agree. I think for anyone, for just having that accountability, we can have all the knowledge and the intention, but if we don't have someone outside that can hold us accountable, it can be really hard. We need that structure.
Yeah.
So I think it really makes a difference.
And without judging, holding you accountable, but not judging you, right?
Yeah.
That
important.
is a very powerful combination. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it really is. So that's really great advice. And for leadership on a broader spectrum, what do you think in the world at the moment through the work you're doing? What are we seeing with what needs to change on a societal level with where things are heading?
Yeah. Oh, that's a very big question.
It's
It's
a
a
big
big
one.
question. Okay. So I think the most important thing is to learn and distinguish between what we see in the media on a daily basis and what's really happening also in the world. Because what we are being served by the media on a daily basis, of course, has a very strong negative bias because that sells, right? Because of our own negative bias, we tend to put much more attention on things we consider negative and therefore threatening. And by consuming media and news all day long, you may get an idea that things are really, really going bad or down the wrong way. And some may. There's no doubt about that. But you may get a feeling that this is the whole reality. It is not.
Yeah.
It is not. So many things are going well. So many things are consistently or have consistently been improving over the past decades worldwide. And then especially in your own circle of influence, start looking for what's going well and what is improving. That can also be an important change of mindset and focus of attention, right?
I love that. And yeah, I think and like you're saying there, look at try and work out what's going on, make your own evaluation, look at what you can make, influence yourself in, and then outside of that, instead of letting that doom and gloom affect your daily activities,
Yes.
think to yourself,
Yes.
hang on, how can I actually
Yes.
become accountable for my own progression rather than just blaming it all on
Yes.
external things? Because it's very easy to fall into oh no, it's
Yes.
okay. My life's bad because the
Mm,
world's fucked. Like
mm,
everything's gone to shit, and
yeah. Yeah.
it, I'm going to throw my head in the sand because like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't. Well, it's like no, we can all improve our own daily experience.
Mm. And it's like, saying, I want to be, for example, I want to be a kind person. Kindness is a value for me that I want to live regardless,
Yeah, yeah,
regardless of what's happening around me, because I do not make that dependent on what's going on around me. I don't decide to be a kind person because everybody else is so kind, but because I decide to be, regardless. So that is maybe one approach to it.
that's a great example. Really nice,
Mm.
simple example. We don't need
Yeah.
anyone else to be, giving us permission to do that. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. We can choose to be kind, and how
Yes. Yes.
we choose how we show up in the world, and that's what we control. Yeah,
Exactly. And then we can be an example for others.
yeah,
This is not to be underestimated.
yeah, 100%. It really isn't. Like you just never know. Even this conversation we're having now, maybe one of my listeners will hear it
Yeah.
and it connects with them at the right time and they go and make a life change. You never know, like
Yeah.
it's so important to put it out there.
And if only that happens in one person that feels inspired a little bit by maybe one thing we said, then it was already worth having the conversation, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at NickBrax. I really appreciate your ongoing support. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for sharing everything here. I would love to keep chatting about this. We might have to do a round 2, but we finish every episode with 5 closing questions. So these can
Mm-hmm.
be, sort of quick answers, whatever comes to mind for you.
All
The
right.
first one is, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
My best childhood memory is going to the zoo with my mother and, yeah, being among the animals and enjoying that a lot. That's the first thing that pops up in my mind.
I love it. I love it. I think it's a good exercise sometimes just to think of those
Yeah, I
things,
love it. I
It
love the question.
puts a smile on my face as well, hearing, other people's like sort of memories from childhood. Brings up stuff for me as well.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think is currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
The lack of kindness. The lack of kindness in how people are treated in the workplace. That is probably the biggest burden. And the second, that is probably, at the same level or has the same kind of impact, is having to deal with uncertainty and complexity in the world,
Yeah.
having to endure this uncertainty because um, orientation is one of our psychological needs. And there's such a lack of orientation unless we start finding it in ourselves.
Mm. God, that's a big. We could do a podcast
Mm.
just on
Oh,
that
yeah.
topic.
Just on that, yes.
And that's a huge one. Yeah, I'm not even going to
Mm.
talk too much on that because there's too many things to
Sure.
say. But
Yeah.
it's a big
Yeah.
one. That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your personal definition of happiness?
Hmm. My personal definition of happiness would be to be happy with what you have and who you are, and not wanting anything but what is.
Mm, love it. Love that. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Relax. Relax.
It's gonna be
It's
okay.
gonna it's gonna be okay, and everything is working out for you.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah.
Well, final one. What are you most proud of?
Of my journey and the path I have behind me and who I have become through all of that, through all the ups and downs. Yeah,
I
that's
love it.
probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, that's been a real theme of this podcast, the sort of ups and downs, like being able to be fluid, be like water with what happens with life. And as you're saying there, it's not only about if we can stop attaching and, be able to sort of go with wherever life's taking us, it'll help us get to where we're meant to be. But more importantly, it's essential that we have these ups and downs to become the person that we're meant to be. If we didn't have any hardship, if everything just was easy all the time, we would never grow, So it's so important.
Absolutely. I call them contrasting experiences or contrast experiences because they show you what you don't want and where you don't want to be and what you don't like, right? And it's like day and night, right? You need both. And
you need both.
The movement is an up and down movement. Ideally, as you grow older and with more life experience and more equanimity that evolves from that, the ups and downs become less intense. It becomes more of a wave rather than a zigzag.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing everything on here. Final thing, where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about your work?
Well, just Google my name. It's Thomas Gelmi, spelled with a G. It's Italian, so that's why you pronounce it like gelato. And you'll find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever you like. On Amazon, I've written a book and co-authored 2 others. So look for me, you'll find me, and reach out to me, connect with me. I'm happy to exchange thoughts and assist.
Fantastic. Well, for everyone listening, make sure to go to the show notes and click on the links. Check out Thomas's book or buy his book. I'm sure there's heaps of valuable information in there, and send him a message. So, Thomas, thank you again for making the time, mate. It's been so great to connect with you. Would love to stay in touch.
I have to thank you, Nick. It's been great talking to you, and keep up the good spirits. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas Gelmi, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to just leave a comment or send me a DM. Your feedback is always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.